It's the Dunham Report with your host, Chester Dunham, and co-host, Wesley Crenshaw. Funding for this program was provided in part by the A. Philip Randolph Institute, ILA Local 1414, Geo Vista Credit Union.
I am Chester Dunham, and this is your exclusive marketplace of information for labor, civil rights, and other issues of social justice. I am Dunham, and I'm the host of the show, and tonight my co-host will be none other than Mr. Grover Thornton, who is a past co-host of the show, was on with me last week and is on again tonight. Mr. Thornton, I'm delighted to have you on tonight, on the show tonight.
I'm glad to be here, Chester. It's an honor.
Well, I think that we're going to try to share, just like we did last week, a whole lot of valuable information to you, the viewing audience, with us tonight. And how I saw you in church today. How did you enjoy church today?
Excellent. Wonderful service. The sermon was superb. It was an excellent program.
You know, we need to maybe capture, I'm talking about the church as a whole, do something special later or something, because I noticed one thing. As people tour the city and come to this, the city, it's the city ranks, I think, around about 6 or something of the most visited city in the United States. I didn't know that, but it's
I didn't either.
Yeah, but it is.
Well, we have a lot of historic things here.
Yeah, and every Sunday we have guests from all, not the United States, but from all over the world.
All over the world.
And that's awesome.
We have people today from England and
yeah, France, somewhere. You name it, they'll be there.
from all over the world.
That's right. So we'll talk later and maybe see we might do something, sort of capture some of that or something like that. I just thought I'd mention that. That was all.
Yeah, with excellent thought.
Okay, let's talk about the recent election. You, the viewing audience, we had a primary, and just recently we had a runoff. Had a runoff here in Savannah, and that affecting us with the school board, and then we had a runoff with other people within the state of Georgia, statewide, that had to have a runoff in order to declare who will be running in the November general election, the big one. And so now Governor Deal will be taken off the first of the year anyways. Term is out the last of this year. And then in November we will decide and see who will be taking that position as being governor of the state of Georgia. And we're going to talk about that a little later on, a great deal, about the governorship and all of these other different elected people who had been running for office. Mr. Thornton, I'm sort of a curious person. This book here is the book of elected officials in the state of Georgia, and also the ones who represent us in D.C. Their picture is in here and a little bit about them. Mm-hmm. But I look at that and I went through this book today and I see that we have a total of 256 elected officers throughout the state of Georgia. Mm-hmm. Plus one other, which would be one more, which would be the governor. So what happened is that we have 56 state senators in Georgia, and we have 180 state representatives. I look at that and I went a little further. So I said, let me see a breakdown of how the makeup of people, gender, race, all of these things. I was sort of curious, and party. The Republican Party on the Senate side has 38, and on the Democrat side is 18 senators, which makes up the 56. The House side, they got 118 Republican House members, 72 Democrat. And then I look at the breakdown, and I don't think that I saw, and I'm pretty sure, because I went through this thing carefully, and I don't think that we have nobody, no African American, male or female, as a state, a House member. Yeah. But it just is something wrong with this, and people need to start voting. I mean, individual, like everybody out there, need to start following this thing up and look at it. Then they need to start looking at issues and things that affect them and their family, not because I like a party or like this individual, things that affect you. And they need to start keeping scorecard, because with all of these individual conservative white and the way they vote, they don't vote the interests of the regular working person, whether you're white or black or what have you, don't make any difference. And that's the way they vote. So there's something wrong with that picture.
Yeah, of course.
Now, the state itself, by population and everything else, the state, it's a blue state, but the state is voting red. So now the key thing will be political education. Will change this. Political education. And I think that this year, this time around in this race, that some of this might change.
I hope so.
Let's start out with the positions. Let's see, and we said this the other day, but we have, and these are affecting us. We have the governor, lieutenant governor, the secretary of state, commissioner of agriculture, commissioner of labor, school superintendent, attorney general, commissioner of insurance, and public service commissioner. We have all of that. And out of all of those seats, we don't have, whether you're white or black, no Democrat that holds a statewide office. Again, there's something wrong with that picture. Let's talk about what you think.
I think the people are really not looking at their self-interest. They vote by party. The Republican Party, I read a book from Harry Truman say this, that the Republican Party is for big business and don't let anyone tell you different. That's their main focus. Now, I can remember when the state became Republican, started really Reagan and Bush, and everything became Republican. But for years and years and years and years, Georgia was a Democratic state. And they made that big change. Like you said earlier, they're not really looking out for their own interests. Well, and it is something you think a state are highly educated black people and other people of color, and they do not have diversity in state government. Like Al Scott was head of the Labor Department once. He was the only one with a department head. If you don't have none of that, you say, as you first stated, secretary of this, secretary of that, commissioner of this, or commissioner of that. They're all white people.
Well, how he got that position when he first got it? He didn't run and get it. That's
No, he was appointed by Al Scott. Governor Zell Miller.
So if Dale Miller didn't appoint him, he still wouldn't have been.
Because he ran and he didn't win when he ran.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Because people have all these stupid idiosyncrasies, and you look at the man's color, the woman's color, instead of looking at the ability to achieve and make life better for them.
Okay,
that's what they're looking at instead of looking at the person.
Let's call a spade a spade.
Well, I call it like I see it.
This is, and we're talking about education, political education.
Sure.
And people need to know this. Versus you been a few minutes ago and you said when the party, which was a Democrat party, let's go back a little ways and see what made those changes. All of a sudden, it was just that they fell in love with the Republican Party, and they were Democrats. All of a sudden, they just fell in love automatically with the Republican Party. What made that help them make what made the changes of those people?
The only thing I can say is it had a lot to do with racism, man, and keep these people down. Don't let them get ahead. Keep these people down. And a lot of folk were, like a lot of our white citizens, they were suffering. I remember Jose Williams said one time when we were demonstrating everything, and I never shall forget that. And he said that what the power structure doing is putting white against black people,
Okay.
against white and black, but then the same part suffering.
What really made the change? And history will point us out. They can go back. You who listen at me can go back and check it out. What really made the change? Number one is a lot of good friends of mine, a lot of people now, white and black sometimes, a lot of whites said, the party of Lincoln and this and that. Well, if Lincoln were living today and in the Republican Party and this and that.
He'd be disgusted with it.
He couldn't, no, it's not that. He couldn't run, he couldn't win.
Oh, no, he couldn't win, not today.
Because racism and prejudice
Exactly.
cause all the stuff that's happening now. That's why I say political education is something we need to talk about, maybe to help change some of this, because it was the Dixiecrat during that period of time. It was the Ku Klux Klans and that group. They all were Democrat. But when later Reagan came in and in Philadelphia, Mississippi, I think when he made his campaign speech or something down there, and he promised them.
Who did now?
Ronald Reagan promised them that if they came over, if they voted and support him, he will make sure that the changes and stuff are made. That's when the things start changing around. And I'm gonna tell you in a minute what really nailed it home.
Would you know who was really the architect of it? And I'm glad he was put out of office, Richard Nixon, with that mess about Southern strategy. That was the root of it.
But
that was the beginning of the Republican Party taking over Georgia.
But let's say this. Richard Nixon, again, you check the record. Richard Nixon, he did some damaging things to himself in power structure and this sort of thing. But Richard Nixon was not a bad president. So far as accumulating things, so far as getting things, people who worked and all of these kind of things under the Nixon administration, if you check the record, it was good.
Well, Richard
Nixon. But what really nailed things home is that the Civil Rights and the Voting Rights Act, the Civil Rights Bill, when they marched on Washington for jobs and freedom, marched for a reason, and they was trying to get a good civil rights bill.
Yeah, but that was 63 after Nixon.
Yeah, I know that, but what I'm talking about is that when a lot of this stuff really changed, see, a lot of these people still were Democrat. They were fighting because they were the Dixiecrat. There was all of these other things, but they still were Democrat.
Oh, yeah, they committed to the Democrat Party.
Right, that's what I'm talking about. And when Johnson did that speech of his, one of the most dynamic speech ever a president ever made, and that was dealing with the the Voting Rights Act.
Yeah.
And Reagan, Johnson knew that he was a Democrat and he was one of those guys, but he had a change of heart, and he knew that this would change and wreck the party. And from after that speech and later on, you can see different individuals changing over and changing over, changing party, and so that's what's happening. That's what turned the party around here in Georgia and everything else. So I just hoping that in this election that some things could change. I know last year at our labor convention, and I'm making this announcement right on the show. At our convention, the organized labor, the AFL-CIO State Fed, went on record and endorsed Tracy April. And it's on record today. Yeah. That's their endorsee. That's who labor is supporting. That day at the convention, it was at least 70% white at that convention. And they went on record and supporting her. So from this and other things, I can see changes look like when people talking and this sort of stuff. So we will see after this election in November in Georgia about the changes and things that could happen. And that's what it's going to take. It's going to take we got a young lady right here in the first district. She was on the show, and she's running for the congressperson on the Democrat slate, and Lisa Rain, I think her name is. But anyway, she's running for this position. You got two additional people in the Atlanta area. We talked about it the other day. One in the 6th district and one in the 7th. The young lady was on the show, I think, yesterday. Highly knowledgeable female. Her name is Macbeth, Lucy Macbeth. I think she is from the Marietta area, and she is running for the 6th district. That's the district that had all this thing the other day with Karen Hartley or something, the one who was the Secretary of State. That's the one I told you the other day, that this was the richest election last year, what have you, in the history of the United States. Over $50 million for a congressional seat in the United States, a Congress seat. That kind of money. But anyway, she's running for that seat, and then we got another female in the 7th district. She's a Democrat, and she's running. And we got other folks up and down different places. We got the person I thought we talked about it the other day, thought it might have been your cousin, but that young man is running for the state superintendent.
Brilliant man.
Yeah, see, and so these people, and the people should, look at these things. You should get the most qualified person and the ones who are going to look out for your interests and this sort of thing. It doesn't matter who you are, whether you're white, black, or who you are, but that's what needs to happen.
See them want to get to that.
So,
we don't see them want to get to that, to judge a person on the content of their character, their ability, and not the color of their skin, but how you can bring my life back into focus where I can be, adjusted to live a good life. That type of people we need in office, who will be compassionate, who will be a person with ability to think and do programs that will benefit the whole society, and not the color of a person's skin.
Definitely so. That's right. Let's before we move further, let's talk about our local school board race that we had the other day, the runoff for president of the school board. Because I did some more depth studying with this local election right here, in which Joe Buck was the, Dr. Buck, I think he won the election. And in the primary, Mr. Thornton, when we talked about that the other day, when you could run for either party, vote a person, whether, which party you could just go and vote. That was in the primary, but then in the runoff, you had to identify a party, whether you were going to be voting Democrat or Republican. Now, in this race, in the primary, Joe Buck received 13,238 votes, 45.2%. Betty Morgan received 6,993 votes. Now, we need to understand these elections. Now, it's your school board, which is one of the most important things they're teaching your kids and all of these other kind of things. So for them to sit home and didn't go back to the poll to vote in the runoff, Joe Buck received 11,896 votes. So he lost about a couple of thousand or what have you, but still yet those other folks came back. Betty lost 370 votes from the group that she had. But now it was Betty Morgan and another person, high vote getter, got together, they had 12,000 and something votes. Now you got another, beside the other people vote, you got right there now, that's 12,000 and something votes. So all these other folks who voted for these other people, I guess they decided to forget about the school system and sit home, and didn't come back to vote. The records show you that but on that other side, it wasn't but 6,000 and some odd people voted. Those other 7,000 or more who voted the first time around stayed home and didn't vote. But they can sit there and raise sand about the school system and raise sand about this or that, and that's you all. But you better wise up to see what's going on. Now you sitting right now, a lot of you all home sitting down, and a lot of you might be listening to us and say that Dr. Levette says she is a dynamic individual.
She sure is.
And she gonna do this and she gonna do that. And I believe she will. But guess what? We almost lost this lady. That's a fact. We would have lost this lady if they didn't get the 5 vote, the 5th vote.
That's right, Mr. Laura.
They had 4-4, and that's the only reason why we got it today. So now, if the situation could have reversed, we wouldn't have had her. What would have happened is the school board members, because they was geared up with us, which would have been spending the taxpayers' money, our money, not their money. But they would go back and say, let's do another search. They wasn't satisfied with her, so they would go back and say, came back to the table and said, we got to do another search, which would have spent another whole lot of money to do that.
Law, the white gentleman,
and this is what I'm talking about.
Give her that position.
So, well, say it. Say what happened with the situation. There's nothing to hide. How you say she got it?
Mr. Law, the white man can't cast his vote for her because she was the most qualified person. See, the vote was
That's true.
They needed 5-4.
That's
so
true.
He was the one that broke count from the other people and voted for her because, like you said in church, were you at the church that Sunday? I introduced him to the church.
Oh, yeah, I say that all the time.
And he said that he voted for the most qualified person for that position.
That is
And of course,
true.
when he ran for the school board, whatever, before that runoff, and he didn't get a lot of black people to vote. I just don't understand it. That man need to be rewarded for what he did, because he had guts enough to pick the person that's best qualified to do that particular job.
Well, Joe got a lot of. He's a nice guy, I like
Oh yeah,
him.
Joe Buck, I know him.
But he got a lot of votes. So you think that people, individual who voted heavily like that think that Buck will be the saving grace? And Buck made a statement, and I know he didn't back away from his statement, because he said that he made a statement about one of the things that Buck say he pledged to bring back accountability to a board that had been criticized for overstepping its boundary. Now, to me, I think what he said, and I'm not putting word in his mouth, but it wasn't the board. The board, as they score it, is the whole board will take responsibility, but it was only one person on that board that caused this thing to happen. So I'm thinking that Dr. Buck should have said, well, because call a spade a spade.
Sure.
I mean, not go after the whole board, but that's what he did.
Was not a good leader.
Because he is the president now, he's there. Now he would be included in this board, so anything now happen over there, then the whole board will be criticized and everything else, just like he is saying. What you think?
Well, I agree with you. I think that lady who was the president of the board, she was not an effective leader. Not at all.
But she's gone. That's not what I'm talking about. She wasn't the problem.
But the Buck is that Buck's position.
She was not those folks out there who stayed home and didn't vote. That's your problem. And it's knocked out the Buck or nobody else, but it's you all who stayed home and didn't vote. And that's what's happening now. One of the most important thing there is for us voting and all of this kind of stuff, and we playing with it. That's all I wanted to say. All right.
You know, I agree with you. We got critical elections coming in November, and we got to get out and vote. You know, some countries can't vote. People can't vote. Look how we were able to get a voting rights bill. We were in this country for years and years and years, and we were not able to vote. That's pathetic. Well, and like I always said, I can never understand, I never will understand how you can have a democracy with apartheid in it.
Well, Mr. Thornton, you know, the more a lot of time I think, and I think about history and go way back to where certain people couldn't vote.
Yeah.
And they knew the importance of voting. Some were educated and some were uneducated, but they had common sense, it seems. They must be had something because they knew the importance of voting.
Sure, they don't kind of impose
and that's what they did during that period of time. They tear the place down to make sure that they could vote. And now today, with all of these different things at everybody's feet, they can go out there and they taking it so negative. That's what gets me. I can't figure it out.
And we have the record of not returning back to the polls. We go one time, but second time we don't think about going back. And that has always been a trend. But like you said, we got to get more serious about this voting business. Now, we got our young people. Our young people got to get involved in voting. That, you know, I was talking to a person the other day, and sort of knowledge with the politics of voting like you. I know no person keep up with the voting like you. Now, you always done that, the statistics on the voting. But what made President Obama successful was a lot of the young people, college people and the young people really got involved. And that's what we need in Georgia this time. And I'm telling you, if we get out and vote, Ms. Abrams could make history by being the first governor, female governor. She was making two things. First, as a female and as an African-American lady, and highly qualified.
Okay, that's number one. And we got to do all we can. I'm supporting her. We got to do all we can to get her elected. But I just made a statement today, just a few minutes ago. But all of these other positions, and those the people got to be elected. If she get there and being elected, it's not going to do nothing if the House stay and the Senate stay as it is.
I agree with you.
It will not do anything. So that's the importance. That's why I mentioned the first district with the young lady running recent. That's why I just mentioned the people up around Atlanta. That's what's going to make the changes.
Right.
If we get out there and make and that's what we got to talk about what's happening in D.C., in Washington.
Sure.
Because that has to change. They can talk about Trump today, tomorrow, all they want, but until they make some changes in November.
Yes, they can.
That's what has to happen. So you can't sit back home because one person, I mean, you get that person out of the way, but see what the president have done already.
He's writing this contract, I can tell you that.
Put things in motion and put things in place that that Supreme Court and federal court, which is the people who interpret the law. And you can have a law yesterday that they voted on, and it's the right law, and it helps you, and there's a lot of things for the average individual because it's right. But if you got a prejudiced judge who got a job for life, and then if it goes to the higher court, you got all of that there. So they can start reversing all of these things. And that's what people got to understand, the importance of these elections and how it affects them.
A lot of people lost their lives to give black people the right to vote. A lot of people. Look at a lady doing Selma from Detroit, driving a young black man to bad voting, and they shot her dead. There was a minister, King, working with Dr. King in Selma, shot dead. People gave their lives to vote. In some countries, people cannot vote, which they could vote, have an input in their government. But now, the Republicans, it's called a spade. They do everything they can to dilute the African American vote. They do all kind of schemes and tactics, moving the voting polling place and all kind of foolishness to discourage you from voting.
Very good.
And they should be having everybody and encouraging everybody to take part in the political system. But they don't do that. All kind of barriers to discourage you from voting.
You are
so
correct in what you're saying. Let's just look after the way back in history when we started voting. Male, black, started voting. And we talk about this because we talk about this under the dealing with the war and all this kind of thing, which is and they tied up together the 13th and the 14th Amendment, which give us certain rights and privilege. So at first we had so much a barrier that we had to cross.
Still fighting them.
We was 1/5 of a person, so we had to fight that until we was able to be a whole individual. And then when we got that, and then they decided, they made some laws, and I guess they sit down and they look at that and say, Lord, we made some laws, but we did the wrong thing. Said, because when they made certain laws, those people, slaves, and then when they got free, they went to Washington and they went to other places. They started using the political arena. They started using it, making progress and start doing all of these things. And the system, the people sit back and say, we got to stop this. So, okay, we made a law And that's when they start dealing, like you said, counting the bubbles and
In the bathtub, all kind of food.
and so. But the key thing was that they made some laws, and they're dealing with the grandfather clause.
Yeah.
And they said, okay, we will say that if a person can't read and write or can't do certain things, he ain't gonna be eligible to cast a vote. And then they look around, and blacks started reading and started being more smarter than them. Now, that's a fact. You can go and check it out. So what they decided to do then, said they're beating us here, so we got to go back. So we put that grandfather clause in. It's all right. So if I got somebody in my family, my niece and nephew, this and that, if my grandfather, great grandfather, what have you, could do all these things and own property, that's another thing.
Yep.
You know, we didn't have no property, so they
had all kinds of ways, man.
So they did all of those things, and we overcome those, diluted those, and all those kind of things. But that it went way back there. But it is doing it now in a different way.
It never may.
In a different way. So they try to tear that Voting Rights Act bill up the way they do it. Now, what you think about the bill itself, the Voting Rights Act, in the sections, like Section 1, 2. We got to go to, at the conference, we're going to be talking about Section 4.
Yeah, they took out the most important part of it, and that is to, we can't do any type of thing as far as gerrymandering, diluting anything until it's cleared by the Justice Department. And the Supreme Court gutted it out, and they have not even yet put measures back into that bill that they took out some kind of way. Just to make it equitable to every state.
The fifth, Section 5,
The pre-clearance
is the key thing that will give you everything, Section 5. But getting to Section 5, that's why the Section 4, 3, they put stumbling blocks there. You can't get around here to get to Section 5.
And the Supreme Court came in the Supreme Court.
So these are
Supreme Court gutted it out. Gutted it out.
Who made some of these changes? Some president made some changes. You know, I used to grumble, and a lot of us used to grumble and say, why the heck that we ever so often, we got to go back and renew this and renew that? Why we can't be like everybody else
Every
and
5
vote
years
like
or so
everybody
they
else?
renew it. With President Ford, I can remember President Ford renewed it. George Bush renewed it. And then, of course, they got the Supreme Court. They argued about that Section 5 but the problem basically was in the South. Now, it included some parts of New York State or something like that.
A lot of those northern states had parts of it. But what I'm saying is that at that time, when you didn't really understood, it was Ronald Reagan was one of those presidents who signed it, which cleared it up and did a whole lot.
Yeah, Bush signed it one time.
Bush signed it, I think Bush signed it, and then someone else. But in that, I give credit to where it's due to certain people, because they did some things there with that thing. And but that's what can happen with these courts, can gut it all up and everything else, and that's what that's what they do. That's what they do. Let's move to the next step. We're going to make sure that in this election, as you were saying, what we're going to do so far as our folks and continue every day, we got to continue talking this voting stuff and getting them to the poll to make sure they vote. Now the churches and whole lot of other organizations and things can do a whole lot more than what we're doing. We cannot go to sleep for a minute. We got to take chances, and it's like you said, that we need to mobilize and do things with these young kids. They got these phones and every type of thing they need, and they can operate them and do everything. Turn them upside down, do everything. And right now is where they need to use those phones and things for the right thing. they can turn out so much folks to vote and this and that if they use that stuff the proper way until it ain't funny. What you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think if we get all the young people registered and vote, it would be a great thing. Like I first stated, that was one of the things that helped President Obama, the young people. See, like I was talking to Reverend Tubman one day, and I was saying, what we got to do, he could remind me that it was the young people that got out and really voted.
Well, that was one group.
All people go already now.
One group, but it was a combination.
Yes, a combination.
People,
but what
yeah.
I'm saying is, myself and you and all of the people, they vote. It's the young people we got to get registered and take an interest in government and vote.
That is correct.
That's my point.
That you are correct. You are so correct.
You don't have to worry about us going and polls and vote.
You are so correct. The situation here in Georgia, the state of Georgia, like I said when we first came on, it's a blue state. All they got to do is go and vote and show you it's a blue state. We can change all of this stuff right here. Those numbers I read out when we first got started, I read all that out. You can change that. In November, you can change all of it. You can reverse those counts and those things here. You can just look at it and see. You look at the first page I pull out. Let's pull out one whole page on two sides.
Yeah.
Republican. So there's nothing wrong with that if they do the right thing. See that? Just vote the right way, represent people right. But we got to, so it's up to you to make those changes. Study it, see how these people vote. They're not voting your interest, they're not voting for you. And that's what you have to do. And whether you are, and I don't care whether you're local, election, state election, or anyone. We got right here in, let's just say, Chatham County. You got a school board, which is important. Election just had it the other day. You got city council, important.
Yeah.
County commissioners,
Yeah.
important.
Sure.
State people, which is important. National, all of those things. But another thing is that we got to stay on top of things every day. Oh, Mr. Thornton, let's go back and talk about, I meant to mention that, and that is right here in Chatham County. Before we leave, let's talk about that. Just looking at it just a few minutes ago. School system. Shortfall with taxes. Now, what happened is that building schools, repairing schools, and it's a whole lot of other things that's under the e-splosh bill. We use that money to do those things, but on the top of that, we still fall short. We don't have enough money. Just the other day they raised the millage rate and everything else, and we're still running short. The e-splosh money is coming in. They predict it will at a certain time it's supposed to be more money in what's there, but it's not. I just saw in the paper, but they said the school system had been using a projection of about $6.32 million a month from e-splosh. And that was in for the month of this year, which is January and 2017 and 2018, a portion of this year. In the last 15 months, they did a report just the other day where they was running over that 15-month period. They collected, I think it was $91 million and something dollars from e-splosh to do certain things that they're supposed to do. And but the true figure was they predicted that for that period of time, that 15 month, they should have to be in the green or even the way they should be. They were supposed to collected $95.6 million. So they were running short by over $4 million or more.
What caused the shortfall?
Shortfall is several things could cause it, but one of the key thing is not taking in the money they predicted that will come in. See, they get out there and they say, well, we predict that John Doe going to spend this much money, somebody else going to spend this much money. We put all of that together in the pool and say,
you get the percentage
this what,
of it,
the percentage of what we're going to take in, and they falling short of what they predict. Now, the experts out there who they pay all this money to do it, they shouldn't be making them kind of mistake, but they're making them. So these are some of the things that we are dealing with. And it costs money, and it costs us money. And the thing about it, costs the taxpayers. You got to deal with the county people will come and tell you, say, well, you know, it ain't but X number of dollars for your house here or there. Hell, that's the county. Tomorrow it'll be the city.
Yeah.
And the next day it'll be the board. You put all them taxes together and you're talking about money, and that's what's happening right now. What do you think?
Well, is that because people really not these spots is the money they from taxes that we voted for, and if the people do not go out and spend money, then how they gonna recoup that money? That comes from purchasing so much money you spend, and that's where they get the money from these spots.
They, you know, I guess from time to time they might spend more to pick back up or one of those type of things, but this is a little shortfall. That's why they call it.
They have to get the shortfall because people don't be purchasing and buying.
But why do you think we are collecting this East Blush today? Because you had to vote. You got to vote for it in order to collect it, and so let's look at that. Because if they didn't vote it in, you'd have been spending so much more money other places.
I don't know where they got it. The only way they got the money was to raise property taxes.
You are correct. But what you think that sensible voters was people of color, were black, and that's why we collecting this East Blush of the way they voted. A lot of those rich folks, a lot of those folks in them different places there didn't vote for it.
No, because they figured there'll be taxes for them.
Yeah.
So they've done a lot of great things with the schools now, beautiful schools and stuff like that. A lot of money has been going for good.
Well, they have to spend. They have to do that. But I'm just saying that.
But the article say they cannot use that money for what they're designated for. They can't use it for salaries or stuff like that. That money is for for schools improvement, construction.
That's it. They got it in the I got it over
the paper, everything.
Yeah, certain things. It's for building school, repairing school.
Yes.
Other type of thing. But those are the major things. All these new schools that you're seeing built around here recently come from the most of it from the East Blush.
And from the East Blush.
Yeah,
we
mostly
needed
East
that now.
Blush.
You can't criticize them because a lot of schools are in bad shape.
Oh, definitely so. That's true.
Yeah, to be commended for that.
That's true. The situation in Washington, which is happening right now, going on every day. Sometimes I get sick and turn the TV and go to something else, but you got to halfway keep up with it, see what's going on.
I turn Trump off. I have no respect for him. He's like a child. He's like a child. Tit for tat. He's like a child. Simple-minded.
Well, what you think about him with minor, like you said, childish things when he's talking about
he's calling people out their names. I mean,
he attacking LeBron James.
We're calling people out their names, low IQ and all that kind of stuff. Like children. Them ain't got no character. If that was President Obama, they'd have ran him out of that White House with tar and feather. That man has done everything disgraceful. Paying a woman $150,000, $30,000, and lying about that he knew nothing about that meeting that he met with the Russian. I mean, meet with your adversary. This man got a problem. I was looking at TV one night and there was a psychologist and a psychiatrist. Both of them were together. And we're talking about, they analyzed him. And the bottom line is this, I don't know what word, I can't recollect what word they use, but he has a mental problem. And that's his problem. You take your man, you go out, he make a statement, and you go right the very next day, and you undermine what he just said. And that woman said, I said she sleep at night. One guy was on the TV, used to be one of the press people, the press secretary. He said he couldn't take that no more. He got tired of lying.
Why these churches now? The churches, the religious right, and even a lot of blacks. I'm the same had a meeting the other day with a group of ministers. Because he brainwashed them in a minute. And like, I don't know where some of the mind at, because some of the people need to kick some of them out of the churches. That they go in there and sit down with this man and let him bring, some of them made statement, but such a good, great president, this and that. Well, what Bible they read, or what moral they have, or what? Here go a man who's one of the worst county in the world, and they should be in there. If they go to a meeting with him, they should be condemning him, but they worship him up and like him and all this for that kind of stuff. And all of them, instead of calling a spade, some of these high-powered churches and people, some of them can't hardly walk or this or that, and still yet tell them anything and they fall for anything. So what go to church for? Or one of those type of things, if you know what's right and what's wrong, and then you're going to turn around and agree with the devil type of things, that's the type of thing that's supposed to carry you to hell, that kind of stuff.
Some of them just don't have no backbone, man.
Huh?
Some of them don't have no backbone.
Not on the backbone. Backbone and moral thing is different. They can be, so that's what I'm talking about. See? And this sort of stuff. Now, here's a situation, here's a man that got in office. He have beat the system with bankruptcy. I mean, he have ripped this government off and other people off with bankruptcy. He had played it to a max. Bankruptcy. When he spent up the money back and forth, when he found it again, he done bankruptcy. And then come back up over there with something different and all this kind of stuff. And turn around just the other day and the law, the people, it's not a law that they got in place, but anybody who runs for office supposed to be showing their tax breakdown and all this right.
Oh, yeah.
That sucker ain't showed nothing yet.
Joey kept lying.
And they put him in office. They ain't showed nothing yet.
But
they put him in office. And now all of a sudden we got this tax bill gonna whip us to death.
And most of the rich is really
whip us to death. I don't feel the effect of it already.
But it's gonna benefit the rich people.
It's gonna benefit that 1%.
That's right.
Rich corporation and all them other people like that, including himself and the rest of them. That's what it's gonna do. But these dummies turn right around and support him.
And then they put everything on the backs of the poor. Now he wants to say that everybody get food stamps, gotta get a job. I'm for people working, don't misunderstand what I'm saying. But where's this compassion? Now I read an article last year, a year before, General Electric. When they got through with all the deductions for this and for that, General Electric paid no taxes. Then the oil companies, they may let the first 2 million barrels go with no tax. You see what I'm saying?
That's what they do.
I mean, the rich folk, I told you what Harry Truman said, don't let nobody tell you no different for the big rich people. That's what Harry Truman said. And that is true.
Um,
But
I
they
saw-
only got to talk about the welfare. What about all this corporate welfare? Giving all the bricks and money to the corporations.
they've been doing that in
That's
a
what I know,
long
but
time.
then
They
they
done
wanna-
up it now.
they wanna
Showing us
criticize
after he came in here.
But they want to criticize the poor person.
Yeah. Now this person he got, I call him Little Piggy. That's who they got. His Attorney General, this Jeff Sessions.
He's pitiful.
He done got a what he got something else in there. He got religious liability trust fund or something, not a task force that he got, and he gonna use that to a T. How he's gonna do that with these big mega churches and a lot of other kind of things, that he gonna be giving them all kind of stuff, and that's what's gonna be happening. That's how these things are governed and geared up for. Oh yeah, we got a race in Atlanta. I mean in Georgia, but they got the same thing in Florida. Governor's race.
Yeah, so a black guy running for governor race this morning.
They got
TV.
he got he's a governor a mayor somewhere,
He's a mayor.
and but he is running, and then we got another white Democrat who is running.
Yeah, a guy named
Two-
Green. That's what I'm on.
Jeff
this
something.
morning.
Yeah, both of them running, and I guess either one of them will be
great.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they were talking about that staying the gun law, which is number the license for murder.
Well, that's what it is, because Al was supposed to be in that, go down there today.
Yeah, Clearwater, Florida.
Clearwater, to a rally type of
Yeah.
thing that they're doing down there today, protesting the stand your ground law.
Yeah, y'all was surprised to hear 31 states got that stupid law.
Yeah, and it's a shame. It
Bad
ain't
thing.
nothing but
A license
somebody,
to murder.
a license to kill somebody. That's exactly right.
Have a man called a license to murder.
That's exactly right, and it should be stopped. But people got to wise up and do things. You just can't continue sitting around and don't do nothing. You got to do something to change, get things changed, and all these kind of. Again, this coming from voting and election and this sort of stuff.
Yeah, that's the bottom line. Putting
That's
people
it.
in office who will do what's right.
That's what it came from. That's where it comes from, and this sort of thing. But we have to continue.
That's the only time when everybody's equal, Mr. Dunham. That's the only time when everyone is equal when they vote. You can't vote for one time. You can be a millionaire, and a person over there got 5 cents. He's just supporting as you that day because you can't pull that lever for one time. So does he.
That's for sure.
So
Uh,
vote is very essential. That people can get that in our heads. That way we make the change. And we got to follow leadership. Yeah, no question about it.
California, boy, they got something out there with those fires.
Oh yeah, with those fires, yeah.
I
But Trump
mean-
said there's no, that the global warming is a hoax. Look at all these floodings, fires, tornadoes. Well, he said no, took us out of the organization, studying and dealing with global warming.
I'm gonna see what he gonna do about this, because Governor Brown, I think in the paper today, I saw where he was
Yeah,
on
they got several fires going on.
petition and
places.
asking him for some asking the government for some help there. So we're gonna see what's gonna happen there.
Yeah, well,
Because they should have, he automatically, without even asking for, he should have done went down there and automatically,
Cleared the
released
disaster
some-
area.
Sure, they should have done did that
I think
already.
they got 1,500 houses that have been already burned up.
Oh yes, goodness, yeah, it is something. My sister called me tonight. I guess she probably might give me some report on what's happening out there, or what's going to be happening, and so we're gonna deal with that. So next week we will be back again, Mr. Thornton, and we're gonna, like I said, I appreciate you, and all the time I'm gonna be bothering you back and forth because you're
Well, this program is
So
a very
good
effective
to-
program
to
because
come.
what this program does is to let people know really what's going on. And that's what we try to do, to be informed. And I want to commend you for doing it. Because you're doing a good job letting people know.
okay. Well, that's why
and they don't
we
have
are
knowledge.
the YouTube thing. We changing technology and we're changing a lot of things because this way we'll be able to go all out throughout the United States, and we will be able to
Viral.
yeah, and bring information back, and like it's fit for the people to deal with the facts and the truth, not no lies and this and that. We ain't gonna do nothing like that. We're gonna actual factual things and gather information. That's what's happening all over. Bring guests in and people in with certain things to talk about, and that's what we'll be doing. So again, I appreciate you, and to you, the viewing audience, keep listening. We will be back next week with another show and some valuable information. Good night.